What's wrong with you? Before we begin, okay, so listen, I began a challenge no one asked for about ago, a challenge where I must take FNaF 1's band and reimagine them in my own interpretation for funs and giggles. In part 1, we did Freddy and Bonnie, which if you have not checked out that video yet, please do. Give me clout. I'm serious, I'm going to spoil them if you don't leave and go watch it. 3, 2, 1. Our charming showman Freddy and the timid nerdy Bonnie Bunny. I started with these two because it already took me way too long to brainstorm and draw them out, and if I continued with the other two, you wouldn't see that video till December. So here we are tackling them now. We're not gonna get a whole nitty-gritty, so just like last video in this reimagining, I like to think that Fazbear Entertainment had a higher budget in both the pizzeria and the animatronics to give them a more polished and put together look, which most of my inspiration is coming from Country Bear Jamboree, which originated in the Disneyland parks. I like to imagine that the first locations from the first game is run down, barely put together, poorly managed, and just unsafe health-wise and crime-wise. But of course, that last part still remains in this new location. No. If that was the case, we wouldn't be making this video at all. We need murder. In this video as well, I'll be discussing more of the lore in this reimagining, which I never really elaborated on or even mentioned in the last video, so we'll be tackling that as well. And the same criteria stands with Chica and Foxy. To help design these characters, we are going to be focusing on their personality, purpose, and how they function throughout the daytime during shows and during the night when they're trying to jump the night guard. And with that all out the way, let's begin with our favorite girly, Chica! Oh, Chica, she's my favorite alongside Foxy, so I took good care of her because she deserves it. I probably took too much time on her, Jesus. For those who don't know, Chica is the third member of the band alongside Freddy and Bonnie. She's accompanied with her Cupcake, and she's... What does she do? How did I think about it? She has nothing going on for her as well. The only reason I'm not gonna bash her for being boring like a certain someone else is because at least she looks interesting. She looks like she has a personality, which, speaking of which, in my last video, I had a little blurb about possible personalities and characterization for the members, which I described Chica as happy, optimistic, and cheerful. Just a pure ray of sunshine. And for his reimagining, I feel like this vibe fits. She's the one cracking jokes during shows, hyping up the kids, cheering and poking at Bonnie. The works. I also made her southern. I like to make you southern. I don't know why, but it works. Trust. She's a chicken that likes eating food. Who likes eating food a lot? Southerners. Where are chickens held at? Farms. Where are farms at? The South. It works. I imagine Chica with this high-pitched southern accent where every sentence has y'all or some confusing southern saying riddle thing in it.
Well, I'm no happier than a 2-foot gerbil Christmas hat toaster on a spoon handle. On Tuesday.
In that same personality blurb I talked about in part 1, I had also thought Chica could be interpreted as kind of grumpy and cranky, and I also want to include that into her personality as some little quirk to her. During the day, she could start out the show is full of energy and positivity, but as the show goes on, her personality slowly starts to deteriorate into this impatient, snappy, and grumpy version of herself, while also being rage baited by a certain someone, but I'll elaborate that in the future. And it's all because she's getting hungry. She's singing for 30-40 minutes straight with no break to a bunch of screaming little kids, and she doesn't get to have a little snack? I'd be upset soon. The kids are important to her, yes, but they're not her #1 priority. Design-wise, Chica is the shortest of the boys, alongside the whitest. She's a foodie. It makes no sense for her to be small. It's like a pet peeve of mine when people draw Chica super skinny. I would never do that in my entire life. It makes absolutely no sense. really weird. I traded out her bib for a dress, sleeveless chef jacket, and apron where her iconic "Let's Eat" lettering sits instead of her bib. I wasn't sure if I wanted to lean towards her being a full-on chef or having formal wear like the boys, so I decided to do a mix of both. Her outfit is pretty similar to Bonnie, down to the color arrangement and the button layout. That was so Freddy could really shine when he's around the two. And so she's not left out of the bow motif that Bonnie and Freddy have going on in the original game. I added a big red bow on the top of her head. It's very cutesy, feminine, and just makes the band look more cohesive. And oh, I didn't forget about Cupcake either. And he wears a little chef hat that kind of covers his candle, but you can still see it on the tippy top of it. I also added these little sprinkle freckles on his cheeks, on his little smile. I made him smile just seem a little more creepy, but still have like that cartoon edge that I'm kind of going for. Now for her role in the band, which again, what does she do? Pause the music. This is a legitimate question. I'm so serious, because since I was a kid, I've always been confused on her role in the band. It's not clear. It's obvious Freddy is the singer and Bonnie's the guitarist. What is Chica? All she has is that dang cupcake. What does it do? How did she get in?
Alright, Chica, so why do you want to join the band again?
Because I played the cupcake.
You're it.
Okay, but for real, in this reimagining, she's the backup singer, which I'm sure was canon, or that's how most of the fandom perceives her. But that's her role. You'll be hearing her and Freddy for the most part during their daytime shows, and you know, Bonnie might whip in with a little something. Ooh, and remember in part 1 where I gave Bonnie a little Showtime interactive bit? Well, I wanted Chica to also have her own little bit during shows. I have Chica announce the daily specials in the menu. There's an automated schedule for Chica where she will just blurt out different specials and deals in the menu for the day, and also in the middle of their regular showtimes.
Hello everybody, my name is Chica Chicken and this is Chef Cupcake, and today we're going to talk about our menu for our Rockin' Wednesday. Our special today includes our chocolate chip upside down indigo flavored popsicles, so make sure you mosey on down and order some for your children and your crew. And if you sign up today for our Freddy Fazbear membership, you can get this deal 25% off.
Something like that would really fit for her. And now on to nighttime gameplay. So in the last video for Freddy and Bonnie, I had their nighttime mechanics reflect how they perform and kind of flip it on its head. But for Chica, I want her nighttime gameplay to fully embrace her daytime attitude. Again, in part 1, I mentioned that Bonnie is no longer the first person to move. Instead, it'll be Chica. So Chica is basically replacing Bonnie in the sense of being the quote-unquote tutorial for the first night. She has no wacky mechanics. She's not sprinting down the hall. She's not hiding. She's very bare bones, very basic. But I still want to add a little quirk to her, guys. I have to add something. Remember her personality? How she starts out super sweet and then she gets more cranky as she gets hungry? Well, for gameplay at night, whenever Chica reaches the door but is unsuccessful, she gets a little cranky. And with every new attempt at the door, she gets a little more cranky. And as she gets more cranky, she gets more impatient. So with every new attempt at the door, she'll arrive faster and faster and faster and faster, to the point where she'll be in one room to the door in the blink of an eye. She's getting frustrated with herself and she's losing time. She can't help it. The night guard must be dealt with now. And the quicker the night guard's out the picture, the more time it is to get back to eating a good meal. But that's not all. Chica is two characters in one. I mentioned way early on that this place has a bigger budget. I like to imagine that the layout for the office is the exact same as the first game, but includes an overhead vent, kind of like Ultimate Custom Night. A little tiny vent. Who could possibly be in those vents? Why would they be needed? It's Cupcake. Cupcake is in the vents. This idea is on 100% from the movie where Chica and Bonnie tossed Cupcake into the vents and he kind of breaks into the office. And even now, as I'm writing the script, I'm not sure if he gets into the office, if it should be an immediate game over, you've been killed, or should it be more like a stun to where the character can't close the door or check the cameras for a certain amount of time. Kind of like the phantoms from FNaF 3. I'm not exactly sure. Let me know in the comments. But this will be something the player will have to look out for, because either Chica will be roaming around the pizzeria with Cupcake in her hand, or he'll be missing. Depends on if she goes over to the vent, similar to how in FNaF 2, where you can literally see Toy Chica or Toy Bonnie bend over towards the vent before they disappear into it. But yeah, Cupcake has some traction in this reimagining too. He'll make his appearances, but for the most part, he's rather rare. Attached to Chica, who is increasingly impatient to get to the door. But who knows? You might spend so much time focusing on Chica, he might strike when you least expect it. Chica! I love how she turned out. She's so cutesy. Here I have her holding her cupcake with the arms outstretched like she's ready to give a big old hug. I'm keeping the theme of the band having their own signatures that employees have to replicate in their mascot modes, which was something I picked up from the Disney parks. She has that fast and tiny signature with a heart engraved to it. It's very southern. Can we get some commotion for the feathers? Thank you. Oh, no, you keep going. Don't stop. Ignore the fact that it phases into her hands, but God! I love her redesign. She's my absolute favorite. I am so happy. You know what made me happier? Stop it. You really want to know? Don't do this. You subscribing with notifications and liking the video down below so you can be the first to know the next time I upload. It would be absolutely appreciated.
No one's subbing. I'm sorry, did we got a problem or?
Yeah, with you, scum.
Who you calling scum, bro?
You, I'm calling you a scum. What's up? And husband. Foxy is the fourth member-ish of the band, but he is stationed in his own corner named Pirates Cove, away from the main stage. He is busted up, raggedy, and constantly out of order. And for that reason alone, I think is why many FNaF fans gravitated towards him. Because he's like the outcast of the group, the lone wolf, doing whatever it takes to get to the night guard so his soul can finally be set free. He's desperate for freedom, to put his tortured soul to rest. He's also a pirate. That's really cool. But in his reimagining, all that boohoo sad interpretations doesn't apply to this Foxy. I never do that. Nope. In this reimagining, he's crazy. Well, not crazy like insane, but bonkers that it's funny. Do you understand? He's a little cuckoo, but for the most part, he's an unhinged, rage-baiting egomaniac. And it's all Freddy's fault. In the little fictional lore of this pizzeria, kind of like how Chuck E. Cheese has his own lore. Did you know Chuck E. Cheese was an orphan? Foxy used to be a part of the band. Back when Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie were first performing together, Foxy was originally a member too. But at some point he went,
Actually, we're kind of trash. Y'all, not me. I'm gonna do my own thing. Bye!
He went off and reinvented himself as a pirate performer, doing his own little shows, sailing the seas, telling stories, the works. But when they opened, Freddy still ended up being the star of the restaurant, and Foxy hates that. So during the daytime shows, there's gonna be this constant rivalry between the two of them. Ooh. There are periods of the day where Foxy will have his own show times for the three kids that care, where he'll tell stories about his great adventures, sing pirate songs, and tell spooky pirate tales. Vice versa for the other band, but there will be a main show time where Freddy's band and Foxy perform and interact together. During these shows, other bits I mentioned earlier occur. Bonnie's chant to help him continue playing, Chica's announcement of the menu and specials, but during the show, Foxy will interrupt the band during performances, crack jokes at their expense, try to take over the show entirely, just anything he can do to steal the attention away from them and bring it back to himself. Just that annoying little brother that can't shut up for the life of him. For the most part, he's just yelling harmless insults at them, nothing too scandalous. Whenever he's poking fun at Bonnie will just take it because he's a loser! I mentioned Chica was getting rage baited by a certain someone during shows. That person is Foxy. She's on the verge of cussing him out. Freddy, like the American national treasure he is just humble about it. But right, Freddy ain't all that innocent. Chica and Bonnie still have their love for Foxy. They proudly showcase Foxy's buttons on their uniforms, while Freddy went and hid Foxy's in his cuffs. In small ways, he's getting back at Foxy too. It's the shady things that get under his skin, so his jokes are more vulgar towards Freddy. And Freddy might respond back by saying something humble but a little passive-aggressive. So from a little kid's perspective, the whole rivalry looks super one-sided. But at the end of the day, it's a kid's establishment, so you know, Foxy's gotta apologize because we need a happy ending. Foxy is not that antagonist that'll be like,
I'll get you next time, my pretty!
no, it's,
I'm sorry, guys. I'm in a bad mood. I dropped my ice cream on the way to the store.
now, design-wise, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little nervous. I think this might be the redesign where I lose some people. And I'll also admit that Foxy is probably my least favorite of the redesigns. Not because I dislike him as a character, but his design was the one I struggled the most with. Anyway, Foxy is wearing a white blouse with long sleeves with the chest window to see his belt slash wrapped around it. I also gave him a corset, which I'm honestly conflicted about. I kind of hate it. There's really no logical reason for him to have a corset. It makes the design look more feminine, and I wasn't going for that, so I might remove it in the future. But for now, it helps break up the silhouette a bit. For his lower half, Foxy wears long pants. I know in the original game, it kind of looks like he's wearing shorts, but in that FNaF racing game, why does that exist? He's wearing pants, and I like it. It gives him a nice silhouette. Foxy is the smallest of the boys, but taller than Chica. I made him look a little malnourished, yes. He also has a peg leg. I absolutely loved the the design for Rockstar Foxy and Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, so I borrowed that idea and worked it into this design. Instead of the parrot though, I'm saving that idea for someone else later. His hook is still there, of course, and wrapped around the hook is a torn piece of his stage curtain to secure the hook in place. There are also a few spots where his endoskeleton shows through, but I toned it down a lot compared to the original game. In the first game, Foxy legit looks like he was thrown into a pot of acid and then pulled out halfway through. I also added a scar around his eye patch area, and I had this fun idea for his Showtime performances. During his solo shows, he'll tell kids the dramatic story of how he lost his eye during one of his adventures. But behind the eye patch is actually his button that all the band members wear. Now, I know, in Help Wanted, Foxy wears a blue pirate coat and a big captain hat. And I'm sure some people might wonder why I didn't go that route since it's technically canon. The design I ended up with was something I would try to avoid before I tackled him. That easy and repetitive, put a white blouse on him and call it a day. But after some thinking, it makes sense. In this reimagining, Foxy used to be a part of the band before leaving to become his own solo act. His whole thing is telling stories about these grand pirate adventures he supposedly went on. He's not a captain of a pirate crew. He doesn't have a crew at all. So wearing a big captain hat doesn't really make sense. Instead, I imagined Foxy wanting to look flashy and cool in his own way. His personality is very showy and egotistical, so he'd rather wear something lighter and dramatic than a big bulky captain coat like Freddy's jacket. Hopefully that reasoning isn't too controversial. You can make the argument that he would wear the jacket regardless to make him look more important than Freddy, but I like my reasoning. But anyway, when it comes to Foxy's gameplay at night, I'm not touching it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Foxy has always had the most interesting mechanics in FNaF. The whole idea of him spreading down the hallway and needing to constantly check Pirate's Cove is iconic. It works great, but I want to add one small twist, and it actually ties back into Freddy's mechanic in his reimagining. Earlier, I mentioned that Freddy has a statue-like mechanic where he's constantly moving on camera, but if you look at him, he freezes. He only moves when he isn't being watched. Some people pointed out that technically, that everyone already works like that in the original game. And yeah, technically, but that's not what I meant. In this reimagining, Freddy is literally always moving on camera. Almost like that real-time FNaF game that came out like a year or two ago, where you can literally see them move. If he reaches the door, it's game over. Freddy has no backtracking. He is beelining straight to the door. But here's where that little rivalry carries into gameplay. Freddy's the proud star of the band. He's used to being watched and admired. And Foxy, the chaotic outcast, is constantly screaming for attention. Both need a large amount of your attention for you to survive the night. You're gonna have to constantly decide where your attention goes. Do you keep checking Freddy to keep him frozen, or do you keep checking Foxy so he doesn't charge down the hall? Now, Foxy's basic mechanic still works the same. You watch Pirate Cove, he goes through his phases, and if you ignore him for too long, he runs down the hallway. But I wanted to add one small extra quirk to make it a little more unpredictable. I changed it to where Foxy actually has two running phases. The first one is his normal run, the classic sprint down the hall where you close the door in time and stop him. But the second one is a full sprint. And if you mess this one up, you're up for a little surprise! If you don't close the door fast enough, Foxy would actually grab the door and try to force it back open. There's this old Chuck E. Cheese fan game where if Chucky was at your door and you try to close it, he'd push it back up with his hand. I always thought that idea was really creepy, so I stole it. So if Foxy is in his full sprint mode and you react too slowly, he'll catch the door and shove it back open. It adds a sense of panic and a higher chance of error, because once you understand Foxy's mechanic in the original game, he can be pretty easy to deal with. But now, when you view that open cove, it leaves a question up in the air. Which run is it? Ooh, Foxy. I'm a little conflicted. Looking at it now in its final rendition, I kind of like it. He looks alright, but he doesn't necessarily hit like the band. It might be the fact that they all have one cohesive look and color scheme, while Foxy is drastically different. I can't quite point it out, but I'm gonna stop focusing on the negatives and just see what you guys think. Maybe you'll think Foxy is the best looking of the group and I'm just hating for no reason. Here I have Foxy perched up on a treasure chest with his fist in the air, kind of mimicking Freddy's pose a little, which was a little nod back to their rivalry, and Foxy trying to outdo Freddy and seem more important and flashy. For the signature, I had it be sharp in straight capital letters and almost kind of sloppy looking. I feel like Foxy doesn't know how to write. Or maybe he does, but the hand that got taken out was his dominant hand. I also had the X on top of the O as a homage to treasure maps and how they tend to have an X marking the spot where the treasure would be buried. I never really got to explain this, but the damaged and tears in Foxy's design, there's like this yellow outline, and it's supposed to be some sort of felt-like material. I did research on abandoned animatronics, a lot of them being like Disney or Disney-inspired looking animatronics left in landfills, and there's always this like felt looking material, so I added that on as well. I might not be too fond of this redesign as well as the others, but I do like my reasoning behind it and some of my decisions, so it might grow on me. All right, lore, a very touchy subject for some people. I should go ahead and say this and throw it in the air. No, this is not me bashing the original story or Scott's storytelling and writing or other writers who contributed to the story. This is simply for fun. Now, to begin, I'm not taking too much out, especially from the earlier lore when the game first started. I think it works great. But for this reimagining, I like to think that Henry and William had a much more healthy relationship when they first started out. Their intentions for making Fazbear Entertainment was much more wholesome and not rude, evil men that took advantage of a animatronic maker person. I don't remember much from the Mimic. No, in fact, I'm taking all that out. It's just them creating the restaurant and the animatronics themselves. And all the good vibes and a healthy partnership continued up until the Fazbear Diner. Their partnership and friendship would come to an abrupt end after the bite of 80. And then after William saves Circus Baby on the planet Mars, he teleports back to Earth and restores the electric guitar back on its mantle. And yeah, that's all I have for the lore. I had a lot of fun developing this, and if you guys have any questions or your own ideas, let me know in the comments. Finally, after months, we have the complete band. I love them so much. I had an absolute blast creating them. This challenge altogether really pushed me as an artist, as I don't tackle this type of art style regularly. It required a lot of research behind the scenes and developing that I typically don't do for a lot of characters. So this was exciting. I hope you guys enjoyed this little challenge as well, waiting for part 2 and watching up to this point. And no, I will not be stopping here. I will continue this reimagining series with FNaF 2's band, where I will actually have all the characters in one video. I am so sorry. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, evening, morning, night, week, and year. Bye!